We are a little over a month away from the release of Marvel's Wolverine, and I am counting down the days until I can get my hands on this game. This is by far and away my most anticipated game of the year, and probably the most excited I've been for a game in quite some time. Because of that, I want to talk about why I'm just so excited to finally play it by detailing a few specific things that I am most looking forward to, so that maybe if you're still on the fence about this game, I can change your mind, or if you're like me, we can geek out about it in the comments. The number one thing that jumps off the screen from the gameplay and trailers is the vicious, fast-paced combat, which looks absolutely perfect for Wolverine, and I simply cannot wait to get my hands on this game so that I can truly feel like Wolverine. I know you've seen that video of Hugh Jackman doing the voice work for the scene in Logan where he's running through the woods. That's exactly how I plan on being as soon as I boot up this game. Now I know for some, there's a bit of a fear that the gameplay could end up being a bit button mashy and repetitive, and I do honestly understand that. I mean, when you look at the gameplay, a lot of it is just Wolverine slicing and dicing guys up, and it's not like past Insomniac Spider-Man games or even the Arkham games couldn't also become a bit repetitive, as you really are doing a lot of the same shit for the entirety of the game. The only thing that really changes are your enemies and the gadgets at your disposal, and Wolverine as a character is certainly less decked out with tools and gadgets than both Spider-Man and Batman. So if you felt those games' combat was a bit boring and repetitive, I honestly think this may be the worst of the bunch in that respect, but for me, what I have seen from the gameplay so far is exactly what I've always wanted from a Wolverine game. It looks violent, bloody, brutal, and right up in your face, and that's exactly how Wolverine as a character operates. Now, of course, Insomniac will need to do things to make you think a bit more with combat, or simply just add something to the gameplay loop, whether that is a more wide variety of enemies with unique weaknesses which prevent you from doing the same move over and over, an emphasis on something like stealth, which puts a greater focus on strategy as well as patience, or just something else entirely like a motorcycle chase. I agree that everything can't be Wolverine screaming like a madman and tearing people apart with his claws, but for me personally, I kinda hope that's a lot of it, and based on what we have seen, it does seem like Wolverine will be keeping the spirit of a game like X-Men Origins Wolverine, which was just so much fun considering the ferociousness of the combat and just how much shit you got to tear up. However, when it comes to this game, I expect the combat itself to be even smoother and more impactful considering the amazing work Insomniac has already done with a character like Spider-Man. They make it completely immersive, and that's the whole point of a game like this. I want to feel like Wolverine, and based on the gameplay that we have seen, I feel like I will feel like Wolverine. Also, I know you don't get to play as these characters, but based on what we've seen, you will get to at least fight alongside the likes of Jean Grey and Mystique, who should add a bit more variety and a change of pace to the combat. I know to some this may seem like a stupid reason, but man, I am just so glad to be getting a true AAA superhero game that is not Batman or Spider-Man focused, as well as not live service. Don't get me wrong, I absolutely love Spider-Man and Batman, and when the next Spider-Man or Batman game comes out, I will definitely be playing it day one, but it's just so refreshing to see another character get a bit of the spotlight, especially one like Wolverine, who is immensely popular in his own right, and it feels like he should have gotten a game a decade ago. I know I perhaps don't talk about the financial success of games that often, however, I'm honestly really hoping this game makes a lot of money. I know it's not my pockets that'll be affected, and all that truly matters is my own enjoyment of the game itself, but the reason I'm going to be cheering for this game to be a financial success is because hopefully if it is, it will only encourage the likes of Marvel, DC, as well as game developers to take the leap of faith and start developing more superhero games for characters that have yet to get a chance to shine. For example, I think it's ridiculous that somebody has not made a Green Arrow game by now. Not only is Green Arrow a fairly popular character, but also unlike a lot of superheroes, he's not OP, which would make creating a game that is both rewarding and challenging much easier. Also, games like Tomb Raider, Arkham, and Uncharted have already provided a great template for which to base a Green Arrow game off of. But getting back into Marvel specifically, another main reason I am really hoping this game does well is because I absolutely need a true AAA X-Men game at some point in my life. I simply cannot die before getting a dedicated solo story focused X-Men game where I get to play as Cyclops, Rogue, and Gambit, just to name a few. And honestly, if Wolverine is a massive success, not only in its reviews and stuff like that, but financially, I think that becomes a real possibility. Also, because I can't talk about a new Marvel game without mentioning this character, can we for the love of God get a Hulk game? While also thinking about a potential X-Men or Hulk game, I wonder what other cameos there might be in the game, considering what we have seen in the trailer so far. Now to be clear, I do not expect a Hulk cameo, even though that would be an immensely awesome and fun potential boss fight that could perhaps serve as a flashback and an homage to Wolverine's comic debut, so I guess it does make sense if I was trying to be a greedy fan, but I would personally be shocked. However, I do think it's a pretty high possibility that we get a cameo from some other mutant characters. In this universe, we know that Logan was formerly a member of Team X, and I'm curious to see if we get any a flashbacks to 3 years prior where we know Logan leaves the team. Obviously, I know that a lot of the members of the team are confirmed to already be in the game, but I'm curious to see if any other mutants perhaps crossed over with Team X, or perhaps in current day we get some help from other mutant characters besides Jean Grey. Maybe if at the end of the game we get a hint at a formation of a true X-Men team with somebody like Charles Xavier making an appearance, I think that could make a lot of sense and be cool. I totally would understand though if we do not get any major cameos, because we are already getting quite a bit already with the likes of Jean Grey as well as Mystique and the wide variety of villains we are getting, but I can't lie, deep down I am really hoping at least one other iconic X-Men character shows up, because I desperately want that damn X-Men game, so maybe teasing something at the end of this could make a lot of sense. The volume of iconic Wolverine villains that we've seen so far is probably the most exciting thing that we've seen for this game outside of the combat. I know the common sentiment amongst comic book fans is that Batman and Spider-Man have by far and away the best rogues galleries in all of comics, which I do think is unarguably true because their roster of villains is absolutely insane. But when you talk about who is potentially third on that list, it always feels like characters like Superman or the Flash who get the most love in that conversation. But I honestly think that Wolverine has a very strong case for that spot. I suppose one could argue that technically he shares a lot of the same villains as just the X-Men in general, which sure, I will concede that, but there are a bunch of villains which Logan has such a deep and personal rivalry with that I do think it just means more, and I think of them more as Wolverine villains along with the likes of Wolverine's true solo villains. But regardless, I'm just so excited by some of the villains who have been confirmed so far, many of which were on my villain wish list for the game, so I definitely give some bonus points to Insomniac. No shock to anyone, of course, Sabretooth is in the game. Truth be told, I was a little surprised it took them this long to showcase him in a trailer, because I always thought he would be in the game. Not only is he Logan's biggest hater, but quite honestly, he's one of the biggest haters in all of comics, and when I say that, I truly mean Reverse Flash levels of hate. Just look up some of the shit Sabretooth has done to Wolverine, it is truly sinister. I cannot wait for the Sabretooth boss fight, as I assume it's going to be extremely violent and personal, making for potentially something truly special. Lady Deathstrike is one of the most badass Marvel villains with insane fighting ability, and if I had to rank the potential boss fights right now, I would say it is very likely that Lady Deathstrike's is the best as well as the most intense and challenging because of how insanely skilled of a fighter the character is, and she is almost certainly going to kick my ass a few times. This one might just be a personal favorite of mine, but I have always just thought the design of the Sentinels were just awesome. At times they could be extremely OP, so I'm curious to see how Insomniac balances that in the game, but I can't lie, I'm super excited for them. But probably the villain I am most excited about is Mr. Sinister, who is one of the best mutant villains of all time, and I am just so fascinated to see how he is used in the game. So far in the trailers, we've only gotten a brief look at Nathaniel Essex, and we learned in the prequel comic for the game he is the leader of Team X, but you know a twist is going to be coming at some point, as Team X is certainly a front for something far more nefarious, but I'm fascinated to see how that plays out in the game, and just in general what Insomniac does with their version of the character, because Sinister is a extremely dark character, and some of the stuff that they could take on with this story is going to be by far darker than anything we have gotten in the Spider-Man games, and I'm just curious to see how dark they go with it. Obviously this game has the M rating, and it seems like they're not shying away from any of the darkness or brutality, but with a character like Sinister, I mean, it is truly some dark stuff you could tackle. Also, I know to some, it may feel like Troy Baker might be in too much in the gaming space, but I'll never not be excited to see Troy Baker involved in a game I'm about to play, and the prospect of his Mr. Sinister is damn exciting. Plus, for the game itself, there are a lot of villains that we do not know about yet that are exciting, as well as some others that are confirmed that I'm not going to go too in depth about because I don't want to make this all about the villains, but I'm also immensely excited about the prospect of Ogun. Omega Red looks really badass in this game, as well as the Hand. Another thing I love is the linear nature of the game, which allows for more unique locations. Don't get me wrong, I love a good open world game with an extremely immersive open world that you can just get lost in for hours on end, but for a character like Wolverine, an open world game didn't really make all that much sense, considering he's a nomad who is known for traveling all over the world. Plus on top of that, unlike a character like Spider-Man, whose web swinging makes for some really fun traversal, Logan gets around in a much more common way, typically by motorcycle. I love a good drive just as much as the next guy, but I'm not picking up Wolverine to spend half my time traveling around an open world via motorcycle. I've already played Days Gone. A major benefit of not having one singular open world is the fact that Insomniac gets to take Logan to a bunch of unique locations, like the Canadian wilderness, Madripoor, as well as Japan, just to name a few locations that we already know are going to be in the game. I find it so exciting, and I cannot wait to see the beautiful environment Insomniac gets to design. Plus, for those of you who do love getting lost exploring, looking for Easter Easter eggs. I'm sure there will be plenty of that at certain locations, and there will be some open environments similar to what you get in a game like Jedi Survivor. Another small thing I'm super excited about is just all of the unique suits that we could potentially get. Wolverine is one of the best designed characters in all of comics in my opinion, and he also has some of the best looks in comics, and I am fascinated to see what iconic suits Insomniac decides to include. I won't go too in depth with all of the looks I am personally hoping to see, as I already did make a video about that previously, but if I were to name the top 3 looks that I personally am hoping to see the most, those would probably be the debut design from Hulk 181, hopefully his suit from X-Men 2000. Yes, I totally understand the black leather is not for everyone, and the lack of color is honestly anti-X-Men, but the movie just means so much to me personally, so I'm really hoping it's in the game. And finally, I would probably say the suit from Ultimate Wolverine where he was the Winter Soldier. I just think it's such a badass and unique design. There are, of course, a lot more iconic looks for the character that I'm really hoping to see, and I'm sure Insomniac will provide a lot of them, as they certainly have had no shortage of suit options in their previous Marvel games, but I didn't want to go too far down the rabbit hole. However, now, I want to know, what are you most excited about when it comes to Marvel's Wolverine? Or if you're still on the fence about the game, what are you most concerned about? Let me know in the comments. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all in another video.